Hey everyone. Um, I'm founder and CEO of Eon, and tell you all today. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we're working on today, and in the next few years. Um, so the major conclusion of neuroscience is that the structure and activity of our neurons is what gives rise to consciousness, our memories, our thoughts, our behaviors. Uh, our our a human emulation, aka mind uploading, is uh, the idea that you can uh, scan people at the cellular level and run a high fidelity virtual emulation of them. So, can you see my mouse? Whoops. Wait, just pen maybe. Okay. All right. I'm just going to skip the pen stuff though. So humans, we take in inputs from our environments. We see, we hear, we feel. This causes a chain of activity within our brains, neural activity, and then at some point we have thoughts, and we have motor outputs, like I'm moving my hands and speaking right now. And our what we're aiming at is scanning the brains and bodies of animals and people, eventually people, to create a in silico version of that. So rather than getting inputs from a external environment, you get inputs from a virtual environment. Your neurons that are being emulated then have a chain of activity, and you have an output to a virtual environment, to a virtual body, virtual muscles. But to you, everything looks and feels the same. But consider this as migrating to better hardware. Sorry, this is the wrong deck. Yeah, let me just jump to my computer real quick. That works. Okay, there we go. So there's this big question of what is the resolution that you actually want to emulate at. So you could use Schrodinger equation and go to atomic level. You could go to, on the other side, go to the behavioral and just take videos of a person and try to use generative AI to get something that acts and sounds a bit like you. But the issue with these lo-fi approaches is that you don't have you're not going to capture memories, things you've never said, things you've never written down. With these lo-fi approaches, still useful probably as an assistant or something. So I think the right approach, but atomic is just, it's too much compute, right? We like, this is decades away at least before we could, you really consider that. Same with the protein. So I think neuron is the right level of emulation because it still captures all of our memories, right? All of our neurons at cellular level. So what do neurons do? How do those work? Our approach, we're going to treat neurons as a black box that has some kind of activation function. And the output of these neurons is a network of activity, and eventually you have motor output and thinking. So, I'm mentioning that neuroscience says that the structure and activity of our neurons is what gives rise to thoughts. So, and memories and such. So. We can break this down into structure, which is if you were to record just a snapshot of your brain and where all the cells are, how they're connected to each other. The second part is how do those cells actually operate? Like, when do they fire based on inputs? And if you put those two together, you get what we are, sort of a structure that is changing with time. I think this is possible. Like, this has been in sci-fi for decades, right? So why am I talking about it now? We're still talking about like VCIs and stuff like that. So I think this is possible within the next decade, maybe sooner, because of three big things that have come about. So one is just capturing the structure has gotten cheaper, and so Wellcome Trust did a report a year ago and found that they talked with all the experts in the field, something like $14 billion to get the connectome of a mouse. And that's a lot of money, probably more than we could spend right now, but new techniques such as expansion light sheet microscopy and other approaches allow you to get the same information, connectome information, where all cells walls are, where the synapses are, for much less. And we think something like 500 to 1,000x cheaper to collect that information. And here's some of our data. This is with optical microscopy and just showing a scan through of the tissue, and you can see the 3D structure as well. But to get to humans, it's going to need to look, not like a room full of like 30 microscopes or something. You're going to need 1,000 microscopes roughly, and it's going to look a lot more like semiconductor supply chain. The other cool thing about using optical microscopy is that you get multiple colors at the same time. So you can label proteins within synapses, for instance, and other things. So second thing is that, is that the activity is collecting the activity. So how do we know how neurons function? So we're planning on using AI to collect paired data sets of structure along with neural firing patterns. So calcium imaging, voltage imaging. It looks something like that. Neuron types seem to behave the same within a neuron type. So maybe there's 5,000 types of neurons. Maybe we just have to classify them. That might work. This is the biggest unknown question, though, of whether this works. Some various models. Here's an example of ground truth, taking a neuron and then feeding the first 2 frames of it to a model that we've trained to show that you can predict spike propagation along a neuron. Obviously, we're going to need to do better than this and create use more data to collect that. So the last reason that I think this is possible soon is that it's already been done with a fruit fly. So this is a scan of a fruit fly brain. We were able to, or a member on our team was able to show that you can activate neurons, such as like sugar sensing neurons, and cause the fly, chain of activity through the brain and cause motor outputs. So this is an uploaded fruit fly, in a sense, right? And it can do 150 different behaviors. It was 95% accurate for what a real fruit fly does. And a lot of the work was actually just, almost skip this for now, but
how many neurons?
Fruit fly has 140,000. So as far as where we're going, we're going to embody the fruit fly next, because right now it's a brain sort of floating in a void, and then go to a mouse. And then after, if that works, small mammal with neurons very similar to ours, we'd move to humans. And there's the years on there. So this is sooner than we think. And the benefits, you get to live in a cool fantasy world maybe, and be distributed and redundant, run on faster hardware, and able to keep up with AI. And so, so this is what we're aiming for. So people who can live digitally, live, love, explore, and that's our long-term vision. Thanks.